Hello there, welcome to HFY Sci-Fi Galaxy, where humans face the unknown, outsmart the impossible, and turn every test into victory. So sit back and let the story begin.
Nobody paid attention to the screaming coming from behind the waste pits. Not the traders loading their ships. Not the fuel workers dragging hoses across the landing pads. Not even the station guards who were supposed to keep order at Dustwell Outpost. Screaming was normal here. This was the edge of civilized space, a place where people came to disappear or to dump things they no longer wanted. Ravi Holland noticed because he was eating his lunch on an empty fuel crate near the back of the station, and the sound was not human. It was deep and raw, like metal tearing inside a living throat. He set down his sandwich and walked toward it. Behind the station, past the rows of rusted scrap containers, the ground opened into a massive waste pit. It was where Dustwell threw everything it did not need. Broken parts, failed equipment, chemical drums, dead animals. The pit was 30 meters wide and stank like burning plastic. He could see the bottom of it. Something enormous was dying. Ravi gripped the railing and looked down. The creature was the size of a small shuttle. 6 thick limbs, a body covered in gray armored plates. Though many of those plates had been ripped away, leaving raw pink flesh exposed underneath. Dozens of burn marks covered its skin, the kind left by shock prods. Heavy chains were still wrapped around its neck and legs, bolted into the plates that remained. Its face was broad and flat, filled with deep black eyes that reflected the light like pools of oil. Those eyes were open. They were looking up at nothing. A Fendrari trader was standing near the edge, wiping his long fingers on a cloth. He was tall and thin, with a segmented body like a mantis, and he looked bored. "What is that?" Ravi asked. The Fendrari glanced at him. "Garathi, young one. Bought it 4 cycles ago for the fighting pits on Halax. It was good for a while. Fastlana. Strong. But they break eventually. This one stopped fighting 3 days ago. Will not eat. Will not stand. So." He gestured at the pit. "Disposal." Ravi looked down again. The creature, the Garathi, was breathing in shallow, wet gasps. Blood had pooled beneath it, dark and thick. "Is it dangerous?" Ravi asked. The Fendrari laughed. "Garathi are the most dangerous things alive. They survive in vacuum. They can tear through ship hulls. Plasma fire barely slows them down. Every species with any sense kills them on sight." He paused. "But this one is finished. It will be dead by morning. Do not waste your time." He walked away. Ravi stood there for a long time. Around him, the outpost continued its business. Ships launched and landed. People argued over prices. No one came to look at the pit. He thought about leaving. He had a schedule. His freighter, the Driftwood, was loaded with recycled engine parts bound for a colony 3 systems away. He was already behind on the delivery. He had no medical training beyond a basic first aid course he had taken 6 years ago. He had no weapons. He had no reason to get involved. The Garathi made sound. It was quiet, almost lost under the hum of the station generators. A low, broken moan that did not sound like a predator or a monster. It sounded like something that had given up. Ravi went back to his ship. He grabbed his medical kit, 2 canteens of water, a blanket, and a jar of burn salve he kept for engine accidents. Then he climbed down into the pit. The smell was worse down here. Chemical waste and blood and rotting food. His boots sank into the muck. He walked slowly toward the Garathi, his heart hammering so hard he could feel it in his teeth. The creature's eyes moved. All of them, tracking him. It did not growl. It did not move. It just watched. Ravi stopped 3 meters away. He held up the canteen. "Water," he said. He did not know if it understood. He did not care. "I have water. You look like you need it." He took another step, then another. He was close enough now to see the individual wounds. Cuts from blades. Puncture marks from restraint bolts driven directly into its flesh. One of its eyes on the left side was swollen shut. He unscrewed the canteen and poured water over its mouth. The Garathi flinched. Then its mouth opened slightly, and it drank. It drank the entire canteen in 3 seconds. Ravi opened the second one and poured that too. Then he opened the medical kit and got to work. He had no idea what he was doing really. Garathi biology was not covered in any manual he had ever read. But wounds were wounds. He cleaned them. He pulled out 2 restraint bolts that were loose enough to grip with pliers, and the Garathi shuddered each time, but did not strike at him. He spread burn salve over the worst of the shock prod marks that he talked while he worked. He told the Garathi about the driftwood, about the route he usually flew, about the colony where he grew up, where it rained 200 days a year and the air smelled like wet iron. He worked through the afternoon and into the evening. The station lights above the pit flickered on. Nobody came to check on him. By the time he sat back, exhausted and covered in alien blood, the Garathi's breathing had steadied. It was still watching him. Every single one of its black eyes was fixed on his face. Ravi wiped his hands on his pants. "I will come back in the morning," he said. "Try not to die." He climbed out of the pit, went back to his ship, and did not sleep at all. The first thing Ravi saw when he climbed back down into the pit at dawn was that the Garathi had moved. Not far, maybe 2 meters, but it had dragged itself closer to the spot where Ravi had been sitting the night before. The marks in the mud showed the effort it had taken. The chain still wrapped around its body had carved deep grooves in the ground. That IT was facing the direction he had left from. Waiting, Ravi stood still for a moment. Then he held up the fresh canteens he had brought and said, "Breakfast." The Garathi drank 6 canteens of water that morning. Ravi had emptied his entire reserve tank to fill them. He would need to buy more before he could leave the station, which meant spending credits he did not have. He tried not to think about it. Instead, he focused on the chains. In the daylight, he could see them better. They were industrial-grade restraints, the kind used to anchor cargo containers during atmospheric re-entry. Each link was as thick as his wrist. The bolts that connected them to the Garathi's armored plates had been drilled directly into the creature's body. Ravi went back to his ship and returned with a plasma cutter. "This is going to hurt," he told the Garathi, "but they need to come off." He started with the chain around its neck. The plasma cutter hissed and spat sparks as it bit through the metal. The Garathi tensed with each cut, its massive limbs pressing into the ground, but it held still. Ravi worked carefully, keeping the cutting beam away from skin as best he could. It took him 40 minutes to remove the first chain. When it fell away, the Garathi let out a long, low breath. The sound vibrated through the ground and up through Ravi's boots. He moved to the next chain, then the next. By midday, all 5 chains were off, piled in the mud like dead snakes. The Garathi tried to stand. Its legs shook. It made it halfway up before collapsing back down. It tried again, failed again. On the 3rd attempt, it managed to rise on 4 of its 6 limbs, the other 2 hanging limp where the damage was worst. Standing, it was enormous. Its head was level with the rim of the pit, a good 10 meters up. Its armored plates, the ones that remained, shifted and clicked as it moved, like tectonic plates on a living body. Even broken and thin and covered in wounds, it was the most impressive thing Ravi had ever seen. IT looked down at him. He looked up at it. "Good," Ravi said. "That is good." The station manager, a Delvari named Goss, appeared at the rim of the pit an hour later. Delvari were short and round, with blue-gray skin and 4 eyes that could look in different directions at once. All 4 of Goss's eyes were pointed at the Garathi. "You need to stop this," Goss said. "The Fendrari are asking questions. They say you're interfering with their property." "Their property is a living creature they threw in a garbage pit," Ravi said. "Their property is a Garathi," Goss corrected. "Do you understand what that means? If it recovers fully, it could kill every person on this station. It has not tried to hurt me, because it is half dead. When it is whole, it will remember what it is, and what it is the apex predator of the galaxy. You are making a mistake." Ravi looked at the Garathi. It was watching Goss with all of its open eyes. Its mouth was closed. Its body was still. Nothing about it looked threatening. It looked tired. "Maybe," Ravi said, "but it is my mistake to make." Goss left, shaking his head. That evening, Ravi sat in the pit with his back against an old cargo container, eating a ration bar. The Garathi was lying nearby, close enough that Ravi could feel the heat coming off its body. It ran warm, much warmer than a human, and then it spoke. The sound was rough and broken, like gravel being dragged across stone. but the word was clear. Va, tir. Ravi froze with the ration bar halfway to his mouth. He turned slowly. The Garathi's eyes were on him. Its mouth moved again. Water. Ravi swallowed. You can talk. The Garathi blinked, a slow roll of dark lids across dark eyes. Then it said a second word. Yes. Ravi sat there in silence for a long time. The galactic databases said Garathi were animals. Dangerous, powerful, alien animals. Every entry he had ever read described them the same way. No culture, no language, no intelligence beyond predatory instinct. Every entry was wrong. What is your name? Ravi asked. The Garathi's mouth worked for a moment, as if testing shapes it had not made in years. Sur. I am Ravi. Da. Vi. Sur repeated it carefully. Then again. Ravi. The third time it came out smooth. Sur's eyes, every single one that was not swollen shut, focused on him with an intensity that made his skin prickle. Not threat. Something else. Recognition. Ravi, Sur said again, and this time there was something underneath the word. Something heavy and deliberate that Ravi did not yet understand. He held up his canteen. More water. Sur made a sound that might have been a laugh. It was hard to tell, but it took the water. 2 days after Sur spoke its first word, it could hold a full conversation. Not a slow one either. Sur learned language the way a fire learned fuel, fast, hungry, and with a kind of desperate joy that Ravi found difficult to watch. Because it meant Sur had been locked inside its own mind for years, understanding everything happening around it, with no one willing to listen. They were inside the driftwood now. Getting Sur out of the pit and into the cargo hold had taken the better part of a full day. Ravi had removed the rear loading ramp and widened the cargo door by detaching 2 hull panels. Sur had squeezed through on its belly, scraping what remained of its armored plates against the frame. The cargo hold was tight, but Sur could curl up in it if it folded its limbs close to its body. Ravi had thrown out half his salvage to make room. 3 months of collected scrap metal gone. He tried not to calculate what that cost him. Why did you help me? Sur asked on the first evening aboard. Its voice had smoothed out. Still deep, still rough at the edges, but clear. It was lying in the cargo hold with its head near the door to the cockpit, so they could talk while Ravi flew. Ravi shrugged. You were hurt. Many things are hurt. People do not climb into pits for them. Some people do. Sur was quiet for a moment. Then it said no. They do not. Not for a Garathi. And all the time I was in the pits, hundreds of species saw me. Fought me. Bet on me. Watch me bleed. You're the first one who brought water. Ravi did not know what to say to that. So he checked his navigation console and adjusted their course slightly to avoid an asteroid belt. Where are we going? Sur asked. I have a delivery to make. Engine parts for a mining colony on Farron's belt. After that, I figured we would see. You're taking me with you, unless you have somewhere else to be. Sur made that sound again, the one that might have been a laugh. I do not remember where my home is. I was taken when I was very young, before I had memory of anything but my mother's voice. Something twisted in Ravi's chest. He kept his eyes on the console. Then you stay with me until you figure it out. Over the next 2 days of travel, Sur told Ravi things that no galactic database contained. The Garathi were not animals. They were civilization. On their home world, Randur, they lived in family groups of 20 to 30. They sang to each other using sub-frequencies that could travel through solid rock. They raised their young communally. They had stories passed down through generations about the stars and the spaces between them. But Randur was a death world. Everything on it was built to kill. The gravity was nearly 3 times standard. The atmosphere carried toxic compounds that would dissolve most species in minutes. The predators were so lethal that even the Garathi, the apex of their world, lived in a state of constant vigilance. This had shaped them into what the galaxy feared. Armored plates that could deflect military weapons, claws that could cut through starship hulls, the ability to survive in vacuum, in extreme heat, in freezing cold, electromagnetic senses that could detect power sources from kilometers away, a body that healed faster than almost any known organism. Your species saw what we could do, Sur said, and decided that was all we were. Ravi turned from the console. What are you then? Sur considered this. All of its open eyes, most of them healed now, blinked slowly. We are people who never had the chance to be anything but weapons. Ravi thought about the fighting pits, about a young Garathi, ripped from its family, put in chains, forced to fight and kill for the entertainment of species that considered themselves civilized. You will never be a weapon on this ship, he said. Sur did not respond immediately. When it did, its voice was different, heavier, more formal. Among my people, when someone saves a life freely, without wanting payment, there's a bond. We call it Ron, sir. It means the joining of paths. I give my strength to your journey, not as a servant, not as a tool, as a partner. Ravi held up a hand. I did not help you to get something in return. I know, Sir said. That is why the bond is real. It only works when it is not asked for. Ravi opened his mouth to argue, but the proximity alarm on his console went off. He turned and pulled up the scanner. A distress signal, broadcasting on the emergency channel. A colony transport ship, designation Amara, was screaming for help. 3 ships were circling it. Raiders point 400 civilians on board. Families. Children. The driftwood had no weapons. It was a cargo hauler with thin walls and a slow engine. Going toward that fight was suicide. Ravi looked back at Sur. Sur was already rising. In the tight space of the cargo hold, its body unfolded until its head pressed against the ceiling. Its armored plates, many of them regrown in the past few days, shifted and locked into place with a sound like a loading rifle. For the first time, Ravi saw what a Garathi looked like when it was ready to IT was the most terrifying thing he had ever seen. And it was on his side. Open the cargo door, Sur said. Ravi turned back to the console and changed course toward the Amara. The Amara was a colony transport built for comfort, not combat. It was wide and slow, with big observation windows along its sides, and a hull that was barely thick enough to stop micrometeorites. It had no weapons, no shields, and no chance against the 3 raider ships that had it boxed in between them like wolves around a deer. Ravi could see it all on his scanner as the driftwood dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The raiders were Kesori-class gunships, fast and mean, each one bristling with plasma turrets. They had already knocked out the Amara's engines. Boarding clamps were being extended from the lead ship point, 400 people. Ravi's stomach turned that he opened a communication channel. Raider vessels. This is the cargo freighter Driftwood. Break off your attack and withdraw. There was a pause. Then laughter. A rough voice came back. Driftwood, is it? I can see you on my scope. You are a garbage truck with a license. Turn around before we add you to the collection. Ravi muted the channel and looked back toward the cargo hold. Sur was pressed against the rear door, every armored plate locked tight, every eye open and focused. It was breathing slowly and deeply, the way a diver breathes before going under. Are you sure about this? Ravi asked. Open the door. Ravi brought the driftwood alongside the Amara's hull and matched speed. Then he hit the cargo door release. The rear of his ship opened to the vacuum of space, and every loose item in the hold that he had not bolted down flew out into the black. Sur did not fly out. Sur launched. The Garathi pushed off from the cargo hold floor with 4 of its 6 limbs and shot into space like a round from a cannon. No suit, no helmet, no oxygen. The vacuum hit its body and did nothing. Its armored plates sealed against each other, locking out the cold and the emptiness. Its eyes did not even blink. Ravi watched on his external camera as Sur crossed the distance to the first raider ship in seconds. It hit the hull feet first, and the impact dented the metal inward. Then its claws came out. Ravi had seen the claws before in the pit, curled under Sur's body. He had thought they were long. He had not realized they were long enough to punch through military-grade hull plating like it was wet paper. Sur tore open the first raider's engine compartment in 3 swipes. Components exploded outward in a shower of sparks and frozen coolant. The ship went dark. Dead in space, the second raider reacted fast. Its plasma turrets swiveled and opened fire on Sur with everything they had. Bright bolts of superheated gas slammed into the Garathi's body one after another. Ravi's hands tightened on his armrests. Sur took the hits. Its armored plates glowed orange, then red, then white at the edges. But they held. The Garathi crouched against the dead ship's hull, absorbing the barrage, and then it jumped. The distance between the two raider ships was nearly 200 meters. Sur covered it in a single leap. It hit the second ship's bridge section and drove its claws through the viewport. The transparent material, designed to withstand micrometeorite impacts, shattered like glass. Through a scanner, Ravi could see the second ship's crew scrambling. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut. The ship lurched sideways, trying to shake Sur off. It could not. The Garathi held on with four limbs while using the other two to methodically tear through the ship's weapons array, ripping turrets off their mounts and tossing them into space. The second ship stopped firing. A surrender signal appeared on all channels. The third raider did not wait. It detached its boarding clamps from the Amara and fired its engines. Running, Sur watched it go. It could have chased it. Ravi had no doubt it could have caught it. But it let the ship flee. Then Sur turned in space, floating in the wreckage of two disabled raider ships, and looked back at the driftwood. Even through the camera, even across hundreds of meters of vacuum, Ravi could see those black eyes. Calm, steady, not the eyes of a monster. The eyes of someone who had chosen exactly how much force to use and had not used a fraction more. Nobody was dead. Sur had disabled both ships without killing a single crew member. Ravi opened the cargo door again, and Sur drifted back inside. An hour later, after the Amara's captain, a woman named Dina Laval, had restored partial engine function, she hailed the driftwood on a private channel. "Who are you?" she asked. Her voice was shaking, but controlled. "Ravi Holland, Kargo Hode, and that thing that just tore apart two gunships with its bare hands." Ravi paused. He looked back at the cargo hold. Sur was lying down again, its plates slowly cooling from white back to gray. It was watching him through the doorway. "A friend," Ravi said. Laval was silent for a long time. Then she said, "The galactic networks are going to go insane when they hear about this. A human traveling with a Garathi." Ravi had not thought about that. He had not thought about much beyond getting to the next job and making sure Sur had enough water. "Let them," he said, and closed the channel. That night, as the driftwood cruised away from the wreckage, Ravi sat in the cockpit and stared at the stars. Behind him, in the hold, Sur was humming. A deep, low vibration that Ravi could feel in his bones more than hear with his ears. "What is that?" he asked. "A song," Sur said. "My people sing it for those who are safe." Ravi closed his eyes and listened. The message arrived 3 days after the raider fight. Ravi was eating rehydrated noodles in the cockpit when his console chimed with an incoming transmission on an encrypted channel. He opened it and read the text on screen. "The Garathi belongs to us. Return it, or we will collect it. And you, no signature, no sender ID, just cold words on a black screen." Ravi read it twice. Then he deleted it and went back to his noodles. He did not mention it to Sur, but Sur already knew. The Garathi could sense electromagnetic transmissions the way humans could hear sound. It had felt the message come in, felt the shape of it, and understood. "The Palax combined," Sur said from the cargo hold. Its voice was flat. "They run the fighting pits. The Fendrari who bought me worked for them." Ravi set down his noodles. "How big are they?" "They operate across 40 systems. They have warships, politicians, and judges in their pocket. They're the reason no one has ever questioned what happens to capture Garathi. It is too profitable." "How many Garathi have they taken?" Sur was quiet for a long time. "I do not know the exact number, but in the pit where I fought, I was not the first. There were bones in the walls. Old ones." Ravi stared at the console. His reflection stared back, a tired man with dark circles under his eyes and noodle broth on his shirt. He was not a soldier. He was not a spy. He was a cargo hauler who had made one good decision and was now being hunted by a criminal empire because of it. "We could run," he said. "Deep space. Off the trade routes. They would not find us." "They would," Sur said. "They always find the ones that escape. It is how they maintain fear." "Then what do we do?" "You can give me back." Ravi turned around in his chair. Sur was looking at him through the doorway, its eyes steady and calm. There was no fear in them. There was something worse. Acceptance. "No," Ravi said. "Ravi, no, we're not doing that. Find another option." Sir studied him for a moment. Then it said, "You are a strange creature, Ravi Holland. I have been told." 2 days later, the Parallax Combine found them. The driftwood was cruising near a gas giant, using its gravity well to save fuel on a course correction, when 5 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in a perfect formation around them. These were not raider gunships. These were military-grade destroyers, each one 50 times the size of the driftwood, with weapons arrays that could reduce a small moon to rubble. The Combine commander hailed them immediately. His face appeared on Ravi's screen. A Findrari, older than the one at Dustwell, with gold-plated segments on his body that marked him as high-ranking. His eyes were flat and patient. "Human," he said. "I am Director Tall of the Parallax Combine. You have something that belongs to my organization. I am prepared to be generous. Hand over the Garathi, and I will transfer 50,000 galactic credits to your account. That is more money than your little ship will earn in a lifetime." "It is not for sale," Ravi said, "because it is not a thing." Tall tilted his head. "Everything is a thing if the price is right." 60,000. Not interested. Tall's expression did not change. "Then we will take it, and we will take you apart in the process. My ships will open fire in 60 seconds. Ravi muted the channel. His hands were shaking. He could feel his heartbeat in his throat. 5 destroyers. There was no version of this where the driftwood survived a single volley. "Sir," he said. "I know." The Garathi was already at the cargo door. "Open it. There are 5 of them this time. Military ships." "I know. Can you handle 5? "Sur pauset." "Open the door, Ravi." Ravi hit the release. The cargo door opened. Space rushed in, and Sur went out. But this time, Sur did not leap toward the ships. Instead, the Garathi floated in the vacuum between the driftwood and the 5 destroyers, and it did something Ravi had never seen before. The IT roared. Not with sound. Sound does not travel in space. What Sur released was an electromagnetic pulse so powerful that it hit every ship in the formation simultaneously. Ravi saw it on his instruments before he felt it. A wave of energy that scrambled targeting computers, overloaded sensor arrays, and knocked out fire control systems across all 5 destroyers at once. The ships went blind in that moment of chaos. Ravi did the only thing he could think of. He activated the driftwood's distress beacon on the widest possible broadcast, a general emergency signal, screaming across every frequency, carrying their coordinates and a simple message: civilian vessel under attack by Parallax Combine forces. He did not expect anyone to come, but they came. The Amara was first. Dina Laval had been monitoring emergency channels ever since the raider attack. She dropped out of faster-than-light travel with her transport and 3 escort ships that had joined her after hearing about what happened. Then a mining frigate from Farron's Belt. Then 2 patrol boats from a nearby colony. Within 10 minutes, 12 ships surrounded the combined destroyers. The Tall's fleet, still reeling from the electromagnetic pulse, faced a choice: fight a dozen ships with scrambled systems or retreat. Tal chose retreat. The 5 destroyers powered up their engines and vanished into faster-than-light travel without another word. Sur drifted back into the cargo hold. The door closed behind it. Ravi sat in his chair, still shaking. After a while, he became aware of a sound. The humming again. That deep, bone-level vibration that Sur made when things were safe. But this time there was something different in it. A warmth. A gentleness that Ravi recognized because his own mother used to hum the same way when he was small and afraid of storms. "Sur, Ravi sait quietly." "Yes." "Are you humming for me?" A pause. "Yes." Ravi leaned back in his chair and let the sound wash over him. The next morning, a formal summons arrived from the Galactic Council. They wanted to meet the human who had befriended a Garathi, and they wanted answers. The Galactic Council chamber was the largest enclosed space Ravi had ever seen. It was a hollow sphere, half a kilometer across, carved into the center of an orbital station that hung above a blue-white star. Seating platforms floated at different levels around the interior, each one carrying the delegation of a different species. Over 200 species were represented. The chamber hummed with the sound of translators working in real time, converting thousands of languages into something everyone could understand. Ravi stood on a small platform in the center of it all, wearing the cleanest shirt he owned, which still had a grease stain on the left sleeve from a hydraulic line he had fixed 2 weeks ago. His hands were in his pockets because he did not know what else to do with them. Sur stood beside him. The platform had been reinforced to hold the Garathi's weight, and it still creaked under every step. Every species in the chamber was staring at them. Many of the delegates had never seen a Garathi in person, those who were the most afraid. The council speaker, a tall Mavari with silver skin and 3 sets of arms, opened the session. This hearing has been called to address an unprecedented situation. A human citizen, Ravi Holland, has formed a voluntary partnership with a Garathi, a species currently classified in our records as non-sentient predatory fauna. We are here to determine the implications of this relationship and the legal status of the Garathi species. Ravi did not understand half of those words. He waited. The first to speak was Director Tal of the Palax Combine. He appeared on a floating screen, broadcasting from his ship, unwilling to be in the same room as a free Garathi. His voice was smooth and practiced. The Combine has legally purchased and maintained Garathi specimens for decades under the current galactic classification. They are animals, valuable animals. Our business operations are fully compliant with interstellar commerce law. This human stole Combine property and should be charged accordingly. The Garathi should be returned to its rightful owners. Several delegations murmured in agreement. The Findrari delegation nodded. 2 other species Ravi did not recognize made gestures that seemed to mean the same thing. The speaker turned to Ravi. "You may respond." Ravi looked out at the chamber. 200 species. Thousands of eyes. The most important room in the galaxy, and they were waiting for a cargo hauler with a grease-stained shirt to say something worth hearing. He cleared his throat. "I found Sur in a garbage pit. It had been beaten, burned, chained, and left to die. I gave it water because it was thirsty. I cleaned its wounds because it was hurt. That is the whole story. I did not steal anything. I helped someone who was suffering." He paused. "I know your records say Garathi are animals. Your records are wrong." Sur talks. Sur thinks. Sur remembers its mother's voice. Sur chose not to kill the raider crews when it could have killed all of them. Sur chose to protect 400 strangers on a transport ship because it understood they were innocent. He took a breath. If your laws say that a creature who can do all of that is property, then your laws are broken. The chamber erupted. Arguments flew between delegations. The Findrari shouted objections. A delegation of Rillo, small aquatic beings, called for an immediate vote on reclassification. The Mavari speaker called for order 3 times before the noise settled. Then Sur spoke. Its voice was deep enough to vibrate the platform beneath their feet. The translators picked it up and carried it to every corner of the chamber. 200 species fell silent. "I will tell you about my people," Sur said. "We are born in caves beneath mountains that are taller than your stations. We learn to sing before we learn to walk. Our mothers carry us on their backs until we are strong enough to climb on our own. We name our children after the sound the wind makes through the rock where they were born." Sur pauset. Every eye in the chamber was on it. "I was taken from my mother when I was small. I was put in chains and shipped across the stars. I was put in a pit and forced to fight things that screamed. When I stopped fighting, I was thrown away. In all those years, hundreds of your people saw me. None of them brought water." Sur looked down at Ravi, and it looked back at the chamber. "You call us monsters because you only ever met us with chains. He met me with water. Ask yourselves what you would become if the only hands you ever knew were fists. And ask yourselves what you could become if someone offered you kindness instead." The silence that followed was the longest Ravi had ever experienced. The vote took 2 hours. When it was finished, the result was not even close. 173 species voted to reclassify the Garathi as a fully sentient species with all rights and protections under galactic law. The Palax Combine's operations involving Garathi were declared illegal across all member systems. An investigation was launched into their fighting pits. The Findrari delegation walked out. Director Tal's screen went dark. After the session, Ravi was approached by diplomats, military officers, and reporters. They offered him titles, positions, money, and interviews. A human admiral wanted to discuss a formal alliance with the Garathi. A media company wanted exclusive rights to his story. Ravi turned all of them down. He walked back to the docking bay where the driftwood was parked. Sir was already inside, settled into the cargo hold with its legs tucked under its body. The ship looked exactly the same as it always did. Small, dented, and in need of a new paint job. Ravi dropped into the pilot's seat and pulled up his manifest. There's a delivery run to a mining colony on the far side of the sector. Engine filters. Not exciting. That is fine, Sir said. Ravi powered up the engines. The driftwood rumbled to life, the way it always did, with a cough and a rattle and a sound that suggested at least one component was about to fail. Sir, Ravi said as he guided the ship out of the docking bay. Yes. When we find your home world, you should go back. See your people. Tell them what happened. Sir was quiet. Then it said, I will. But I will come back. You do not have to. I know. That is why I will. The driftwood cleared the station and entered open space. Ahead of them, the stars stretched out in every direction, cold and bright and endless, a tiny, battered freighter carrying a quiet human and the most powerful creature in the galaxy. Not a warrior and his weapon. Not a man and his pet. Just two friends heading somewhere together, because one of them had once offered water to a stranger and the other had never forgotten it.